Here in 2021, what is the better app to drive for? Is it DoorDash or is it Uber Eats? Well, as a driver that's driven thousands of deliveries between both and in different marketplaces from San Diego to Pittsburgh, I'm going to go over some very important criteria so we can put both of these apps head to head. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike. This channel is dedicated to your success in this gig economy, the side hustle. So if you are new here, consider subscribing. And if you want to take the guesswork out of all of these food delivery apps so you can make more money, go to yourdrivermike.com/delivery. But in this video, we're going to compare two of the biggest food delivery apps. DoorDash, who has a market share of 50% when it comes to sales, to Uber Eats. And in this video, we're going to look at different criteria to make a fair comparison, with number one, the ease of use to you as a driver. Number two, we're gonna put their order request screens head to head. Of course, number three, we need to look at pay. Number four, the bonuses when it comes to pay. Number five, well, which is busier for you as a driver? And lastly, app problems before we get into an ultimate verdict. So number one, ease of use as a driver, especially important if you're looking to sign up as a new driver. In my opinion, generally either of these apps are pretty easy to use. And I say that because everything is pretty clearly laid out as far as your account, settings, and really most importantly, how to make a delivery. An example, when it comes to navigation, both apps have in-app navigation. Now, if you don't want to use that, it also seamlessly integrates with different GPS apps like Waze or Google Maps. Other things to consider when it comes to ease of use are the different screens. Again, we're going to get into the order request screen, but how easy is it to navigate those screens? Are they giving you too much information, too little information? Generally, both of these apps are pretty good on the actual ease of use. But that doesn't mean both are the same when it comes to the actual delivery process. So let's compare the different order request screens. So here are the most current versions here in 2021 of both order request screens for Uber Eats and DoorDash. So as a driver, there's a few very important things you should be paying attention to when you get an order request. Well, number one, it is pay. How much am I going to earn from this delivery? And nicely here in 2021, of course, both apps show you how much you're gonna get paid. And a newer feature on Uber Eats, we can see here, your pay actually includes the expected tip as well. Now, something to note on the DoorDash side. Now, this does also include the customer tip. But look below that, we can see the total may be higher. And that is the case. In my experience, sometimes what you'll see with a DoorDash is, let's say we accept this order for $9.75. Sometimes, and this is just how the DoorDash Dasher app works, that total might be $13 or $14. Versus generally in my experience that, let's say $19.50 for this order for TGI Fridays on Uber Eats is going to be pretty consistent with the actual payout. Something to note, especially with pay on Uber Eats when it comes to tipping. Your Uber Eats customers are really used to tipping after the fact, after they get their delivery. And that's really the inverse on DoorDash. On DoorDash, just the way their system is laid out, those customers are typically tipping ahead of time. Now, you may receive cash tips after the fact with a DoorDash, and there is a way to add a tip after the fact as a customer on a DoorDash, but it is much more difficult than Uber Eats. So if you're driving on Uber Eats, have a great customer service, especially because it makes a difference because your customer is tipping after the delivery. So looking at these order request screens, what is also important? Well, it is distance. Both apps are going to show you the expected route here. We can see a projection of the expected driving route as well as the expected miles. That's important to make a smart business decision. It's okay, well, it's paying me pretty good, but how far do I need to drive to get that pay? Because it makes sense from a business standpoint. You want orders that really pay you as much as possible, but have you drive as little as possible. Because more driving, more miles, of course, that's more wear and tear on your vehicle, and that's more operational expenses. So we can see here, both are going to show you the estimated miles here, 4.8 on this DoorDash order, and then 3.4 on Uber Eats. Other thing to look for is the counter as far as how much time you have to accept that order request. On DoorDash, you do get a little bit more time, 45 seconds to accept a single order versus generally 15 to 30 seconds for a single order request on Uber Eats. Next, the restaurant pickup. We can see both apps do tell you the restaurant that you're going to be picking up from, and that's actually pretty important, again, to make a smart business decision. Seeing the restaurant is big, and really any food delivery app is going to show you the restaurant that you're picking up from, but you can use that as a hack, again, as a business decision. If you see pickups from restaurants that typically take a long time, they're really not ready with the order, or if you see fast food restaurants that typically send you through a very long drive-through, that's also something to consider. And a few other points here, we can see there are options on both apps to decline the order request. So going back to that restaurant, let's say it's a McDonald's order, or again, an order that really doesn't make sense for pay, for miles, for the restaurant, etc. You can hit that decline button. Now that does affect what's called an acceptance rate, the percent of times that you're offered a prospective order and the percent that you decline that order. Now note here in 2021, you cannot be deactivated off of either respective platform for a low acceptance rate. But let's say you do want to accept these orders, you'll of course hit that red accept button on a DoorDash, or you can click that blue shopping bag icon on Uber Eats. And one last thing to note here, we can see an estimated trip time on Uber Eats. We can see 16 minutes total to make this delivery. We don't necessarily get that mapped out necessarily on a DoorDash, but we do get the estimated delivery by time, in this case, 5:34 p.m. So while it's not necessarily spelled out on a DoorDash, we can just take a look at the current time and make an estimate from this. Next, let's take a look at the pay. Here's how these apps pay you in 2021. On DoorDash, we can see it is base pay, plus any promotions, plus 100% of tips equals your total earnings. Now, DoorDash is considering things like we can see here with the time, with the distance, or the desirability as far as that base pay. Now, this base pay will vary from $2 to $10 based on these factors. Now, it's important to note, let's say desirability, if drivers are declining this order for whatever reason, that may increase this base pay from DoorDash. Or again, the time, if it's going to take longer to make that delivery, or if it's going to take farther as far as the delivery distance, that may also increase this base pay. Nextly, the promotions, any peak pay or challenges. Peak pay, that is a per delivery bonus. So if you're driving, let's say certain hours in certain segments in your marketplace, you may earn extra pay, maybe an extra $1, $2, $3 per delivery. And then challenges, that is a newer batched bonus. Now you may not see this in your market yet, but you need to be aware of this if it does come to your marketplace. So with challenges, you may need to drive a certain amount of deliveries, and once you complete that entire batch of deliveries, then you'll earn an extra bonus. Now, even on DoorDash, customer service and best practices matter. I do invite you to join the team here of over 24,000 if you haven't done so already, and definitely subscribe to the team here because best practices can earn you more tips. And of course, on either app, you'll earn 100% of those tips. And all of that combined, again, equals your total earnings. Now, one important thing to note, regardless of what app you drive for, on DoorDash, Uber Eats, really any app in this gig economy, that is taxes. And as an independent contractor, your taxes are not withheld from any of these earnings. So after this video, make sure to click the card linked above and watch an entire video from a certified financial planner when it comes to taxes and finances. Now let's turn our attention to Uber Eats and how they pay you as a driver. So similar thing here, but it is a little bit different. It's base pay plus any trip supplement plus promotions. And then we have your tips, and that equals your total pay. So Uber Eats breaks this down a little bit different. You'll get a flat pay for every pickup, a rate for every drop off, and then there's a rate for the time and a rate for the distance for your specific marketplace. And then we can see here a trip supplement. So let's say it is a short order and there's not a lot of distance involved. Uber Eats may add an additional pay called a trip supplement to equal a minimum base fare. And then any promotions, any boost pay or surge pay. So let's break down what this is. Boost Pay is a rate multiplier broken down into different segments in your driving market. Unlike DoorDash, Uber Eats really encompasses your entire marketplace as one large drivable market segment, versus on DoorDash, they're breaking down your entire city segment into different zones and you'll schedule to drive in one certain zone. So what you may see in your marketplace is this: different boost zones, and again, with rate multipliers. Busier zones, of course, are going to have higher rate multipliers. We can see here it may be a 1.3 times your regular pay. It may be 1.5, 1.7 times your regular pay. So as long as you make the pickup in one of these zones, you'll receive that boost multiplier. Now the drop off, it doesn't matter. If you drop off in a different zone, you'll get the boost rate from the pickup zone. And then the surge pricing, this is an actual dollars bonus for picking up in that zone. So we can see here different examples of surge zones. And again, this is different. Picking up in a surge zone, it is a dollar amount, not a rate multiplier. And yes, if it's busy enough in your zone, you could get the rate multiplier from that boost pay. In addition to, if you're picking up in another busy zone, you could also get the surge bonuses. Now, something not mentioned above, but we should take note of that, these are Quest bonuses. You can think of Quest bonuses kind of like the challenges on the DoorDash system, because these are the batched bonuses on Uber Eats. And the same as all food delivery apps, you'll receive 100% of tips. So we've talked about how pay is broken down, and we've talked about the different bonuses offered on either app. So as a driver, knowing that, which one is busier? It's a little difficult on the overhead, the large macro level, to tell you which app is generally busier, because this may vary, and frankly, it will vary based on your marketplace. But here's a few things to consider. As mentioned in the start of this video, when it comes to the actual numbers, when it comes to sales, in Q4 of 2020, DoorDash had a 50% market share, with Uber Eats in second place with a close to 30% market share. So you need to really do the research and drive for both at different times and maybe in different areas of your marketplace to find which is busier. But now knowing that DoorDash has the market share, that of course is one thing to consider. But you should also consider this new news from Uber Eats. Uber Eats will be acquiring Postmates here in 2021. So if you're decently busy or just generally busy on Uber Eats, well, you may get even busier with this acquisition. That is because even though Uber Eats has stated on the consumer end that both apps will continue to operate separately, they are looking for a more meshed system when it comes to the driver platform. So let's be on the lookout for that, and we'll see how Uber Eats performs on the driver end. But I did want to also talk to you about app problems. Something that I'm most clear on when it comes to DoorDash, that's app crashes. Not necessarily info as far as app security in your info, but really just that, operational crashes where you can't go online. So if you sign up for just DoorDash and you experience app crashes, especially if you're really relying on DoorDash to make full-time or part-time income, well, you're losing out on that income and you will not be reimbursed for any outages. So that's something to consider. Although it's not too frequent, it's not especially widespread, I have not seen that, the outages on Uber Eats. Now, something to consider, especially here in 2021 on DoorDash, are these contract violations. It's new to Q4 of 2020, really brand new here to Q1 of 2021. And what these are violations on your terms of service with DoorDash as a dasher. If you're late to the pickup or the drop-off location by 10 minutes or more, you can receive a contract violation. And too many of these violations may lead to deactivation from the platform. Now, it's not only what DoorDash is calling extreme lateness, but if a customer marks that the order never arrived, you may also receive a contract violation. Now, since this is new and since this may lead to deactivation, I would also watch the entire video that was done on contract violations so you can be in the know. Now, something to consider on the Uber Eats side is, yes, you have the freedom, as mentioned before, to decline orders that don't make sense to you as a driver. But if you decline too many in a row, let's say, you may be timed out of the Uber Eats system or just simply logged out of the Uber Eats driver platform. And it's not really a big deal. You can just log back in, but then you may have to park. You may have to verify your identity, usually by taking a picture of yourself in the driver app. Kind of a pain, especially if you're trying to make money and stay busy. Something to consider. But again, on the other hand, driving an Uber Eats, I don't experience things like the crashes that I do experience from time to time on DoorDash. So the verdict, both apps, in my opinion, get a good amount of orders. Both apps, in my opinion, have a decent pay as far as the bonus is if you're driving during busy times. That's especially true if you're in a medium or large size market. Again, you need to do the research on your end and really find out for yourself which is better for your marketplace. Now, both apps give us enough information as drivers, and now both apps are not only showing you the expected earnings, but the expected tip as well. So with such a tight race here in 2021, who gets it? Who is the better app to drive for? In my opinion, very, very closely, I would have to still give this to DoorDash. I feel like as of now, the pay bonuses are better. I do feel like, especially with the #1 market share, still being the #1 food delivery app, DoorDash is slightly the better app to drive for. But I feel like here in 2021, that gap from #1 with DoorDash to #2 with Uber Eats is now really smaller than ever. So if you're trying to decide which app to sign up for first, I would pick one. I would do that market research. I would compare the bonuses. And once familiar with that driver app, I would sign up for the other one and compare and really drive for the app that pays you the most. So let me know down below in the comments, what do you feel like is the best app to drive for? Is it DoorDash, still the #1 driving app in the food delivery space, or is it Uber Eats? Let us know down below. Now, if you got value in this video, definitely drop me a like. And you can also click or tap the screen here for my most recent video, as well as a video recommended for you. And I'll see you in the next one.